Hey everybody, Jeffrey Zimbelman here. I just got done reading The Wizard's First Rule, and that's written by Terry Goodkind. It came out way back in 1994. So more than likely you've probably read it, and you're just looking up reviews to kind of see what people are thinking about the novel, because it's 900 pages long, and Terry Goodkind says a lot. And he describes a lot of information that goes on in Richard Cypher's world. It's a fantasy novel, so if you've never read a fantasy novel, it might be a good one to start with. It's a lot of action. It is a fast-paced novel, so it takes you through the 900 pages fairly quickly, if you can believe that. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit first about Queen Malena. Now, we are first introduced to Queen Malena through the eyes of Rachel. Now, you remember from the book, she's the queen that actually has one of the boxes of Orden, and Darken Rahl, who is for all intents and purposes, the evil wizard of this novel, he is trying to get the box. And to do that, he is going to enter into a peace accord with Queen Malena. And we know from Darken Rahl's story, from when Terry Goodkind shows the book, or shows his perspective about Darken Rahl, that Darken Rahl is only interested in the power of the boxes of Orden, and he will literally sign anything that Queen Malena wants so he can get this box. So his pretenses are false, and he's doing anything he can do to gain that power. All right, so that's old news. You read the book, you know that. But Queen Malena, I thought she was a good character. And I like the way Terry Goodkind described her, that she was an amply fed or a well-fed queen. So she's fat. And she comes across as being rather lazy and rather stupid. She's not the brightest of the leaders that we are introduced into this little world that Terry Goodkind is describing. Now, little Rachel, good old Rachel, she eventually helps smuggle the box of Orden out of the castle. But she's in the kitchen, and the cooks are talking about making this brew, this drink called the Drink of Enlightenment. Not sure exactly what that was, but it sounds like Darken Rahl sent Queen Malena these special ingredients to make in this beverage, this punch. I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of margarita or something, I don't know. But anyway, and the cooks run out, so they basically throw in false ingredients, fake ingredients, to make this punch of enlightenment for the queen. And the queen tastes it, and she knows immediately something's wrong. She can taste the difference. And she goes to the cook, what is going on? This does not taste like your normal punch of enlightenment, or drink of enlightenment. And the cook say, oh, you're very perceptive. We made the punch much stronger so that anybody who drinks this, you'll immediately know that they're a traitor to you. And the queen just accepts this at face value. She doesn't ask questions any further. And it kind of shows you that she has no intellectual curiosity. She's only interested in getting the results, her selfish desires fulfilled. One, that she stays in power, and two, that she has plenty of food on the dinner table. And to a lesser extent, that she actually enters into this peace accord with Darken Rahl. She'll do whatever it takes to secure her kingdom, as any dictator would. But Queen Malena, she never takes the necessary steps to find out the truth of what's really going on in her kingdom or with this peace accord. She just accepts things at face value. She asks the obvious question like, well, I noticed something's wrong with the punch. What is it? And the cook gives a response, but she doesn't follow up to figure out, is this cook really telling the truth? So in one sense, she is really truly the opposite of our hero, Richard Cypher. He's the guy that is holding the office of the Seeker, and he is trying to stop Dark and Raw by whatever means necessary. And he actually, in the end, defeats Dark and Raw by using the wizard's first rule, which we learn about a little bit in chapter 27. This is where basically Zed is granting, or I should say he's extending an invitation to Richard to become a wizard. He discusses the wizard's first rule, that people are stupid, and he says, or he makes this interesting comment. He says, knowledge is power. Now, this is a wizard of the first order. He doesn't say magic is power. He says knowledge is power. And I think that's one of the underlying themes that goes through this book, Wizard's First Rule, is this this study, this evaluating what exactly is truth. Let's go back to the beginning of the book real quickly. If you remember, we're just being thrown into the novel. Richard is trying to find out who killed his father, and he's a young man. He hasn't yet accepted the post of the Seeker, and he only knows about the world of Westland, I think it's called. The far west boundary area is where he lives. So he has no knowledge of the Midlands. He has certainly no knowledge of Dahara or Dark and Raw at this point. So he's a novice. He's new to the world. He's a young guy. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and he runs into Kaylin, and she starts expanding his world immensely when she starts talking about the Midlands and what's going on, and there's magic that exists. So all of a sudden, Richard has his little world blown up into a much larger perspective, and he has a lot of questions. So he says, let's go find the Cloud Reader, Zed. Let's figure out what needs to be done here. Because I have a lot of facts. I have a lot of information. I'm not sure exactly what to do with it. And that's where he's named the Seeker. Again, this is all old news. You've read the book. And here, Zed first makes the pronouncement that, truth is affected by your perception. So truth is not just facts about so-and-so killed his father. The vine that bit him. I forget what it's called. Wolf vine or whatever that bit him. That comes from the Midlands or whatever. There's a bunch of facts Richard knows, but he doesn't have any perspective on the world. But yet, Zed is saying, your intellect about truth really is going to be affected about your perception. Who you perceive your enemies are. Who you perceive your family is, and all that can change. And he made the point that Dark and Raw, from his perspective, he's right, and Richard and Kaylin and the wizard, they're all wrong, that they're the baddies, they're the bad guys. So I think Terry Goodkind is taking us through an intellectual exercise about what is the nature of truth. What is truth? How would we look at truth? Is it affected by our worldview or not? Let's look at the character Shota just for a minute. Very interesting character. I liked her a lot. Richard goes into her valley, and he noticed everything is beautiful, but yet he's being told this is an evil witch. I think Richard was expecting perhaps a dark, dank valley. Maybe there would be a lot of high walls around a castle, but he was kind of blown away. Here's this beautiful valley, and this witch, approaches him, and they start dialoguing back and forth. It's kind of a tense moment. You're not sure exactly what's going to happen, if Richard's going to try and kill Shota or if Shota's going to kill Richard. But Shota says, look, you come into this valley with pretenses that you hate me, but you don't even know me. You don't even know my actions. I just want you to take me for who I am and judge me by my actions. So Richard's world about truth is spun a little bit further. You know, is truth simply facts, or is it something more than just our perceptions about the world around us? So going back to Queen Milena, she always takes things at face value. She doesn't have that intellectual curiosity to dig deeper into life. And I think this is where we can learn a lesson from this book. And certainly there's a lot more we could talk about, you know, the nature of good and evil, love, relationships, boundaries. You know, Richard crosses several boundaries, you know, definitions of right and wrong, things like that. But, you know, because this video can't be all that long, I just wanted to go into the fact that Terry Goodkind has this thread through the whole novel where he talks about, you know, truth. And that's where we can pull it into our lives. You know, if we want to find success in our lives, there has to be a willingness to go further and ask tough questions and look at ourselves differently. You know, are we accepting this situation at face value? Is this really how things are in our society, in our life, with the people in our relationships around us? Are we perhaps showing a false side to ourselves, to other people? We're not really being truthful and honest in our relationships. You know, are our politicians that run our country, are they being honest with us, or is there something else going on? You know, these are the things that make people successful. You know, can they see past the lies and get to the truth? Because truth has power. Knowledge has power. That's why we invest money into going to college and getting an education. You know, and while you're at school, are you going to be a good student and actually take time and learn the lessons and ask questions from your professors and spend time outside the classroom, you know, and go visit him during office hours or her during office hours to find out what they think. You know, are you asking your classmates about, you know, various issues? And that, you know, translates into the workplace as well. You know, are you asking questions? How can I be a better employee? How can I be a better boss? You know, how can I develop relationships with my coworkers to a greater and deeper level where we're not just passing each other, you know, that we're actually developing meaningful relationships. So, fun book. Lots of action. I think you'll be impressed with his writing. The story isn't necessarily new. I mean, we've seen wizards before. We've seen truth seekers before in these fantasy type novels, but I think Terry Goodkind does it in a fun way. It's lighthearted for the most part, except what I think is the most interesting part of the novel, and that's where Richard is being tortured. Very dark part of the novel. For like 80 or 90 pages, we get nothing but pain and suffering and you know, this depressed outlook on life where people, all they want to do is take advantage of each other and get what they can from them, and we're there to break other people. Very dark part of the novel. However, we learn the most about Richard from that part of the novel, that there's something else inside him that's willing or is trying to well up in him that he reaches for and grabs that power. Of course, that power is magic, but that magic isn't used to its full potential till he actually learns about what that magic is. Of course, Dark and Raw teaches him a little bit about magic, and that's ultimately his downfall, Dark and Raw's downfall. But, you know, Denna, we see her as being somebody who's oppressive, who's just there to add darkness to the world, to make slaves out of people. But yet, there's a kind of a good side to her. And I found that interesting. I hope you do too. I hope you like the book if you've read it. You know, tell me your comments. Who were your favorite characters? Was it Chase? Was it Zed? You know, was it Dark and Raw? You know, the evil bad guy. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about the novel. It was pretty good. I liked it. Kept my interest up. It was fast-paced. And again, lots of action, lots of things going on in this book. All right, take care.